If you thought the isolation, the freezing cold, and the extended darkness were reasons not to live in Alaska, just add vampires. On this Shocktober episode of Moving Panels, we discuss 30 Days of Night. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and joining me today in the co-host chair is someone who could easily be a Ben Foster lookalike, our dapper southern gent, Blake Fowler.
First of all, I completely forgot Ben Foster was in this, so I watched it again. But second of all, yeah, we're going to talk about 30 Days of Night, and also, I'm going to tell you why you should stop hanging out with Josh Hartnett.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to have to try to hold ourselves on how much we'll talk about Josh Hartnett.
Ben Foster lookalike. Just put me on the 310 to Yuma, Laramy, okay?
There you go.
All right.
Hey, look, he's
a great actor.
Let's just go ahead. If Ben Foster had played Eben, this would have been a better movie.
That's such a better movie, right?
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. It's Halloween.
Yeah.
And as always, we like to do a Halloween-themed episode. And we decided to do 30 Days of Night. For those of you who didn't know, it is a comic book. It's a comic book series, actually. And Blake is a big fan of that series.
Love it. So you've got like 30 Days of Night, 30 Days of Night, Dark Days.
Which they did make into a movie.
They did make into a direct-to-DVD, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Like, it was very bad. But yeah, it's a series. The series itself, not the movies. The series itself is very good, very well written. It is extremely graphic and gory, if that's not your thing. But certainly worth a read at night alone on your couch with a fire going and some bumps in the woods going on. So yeah, definitely worth a check out. There's my plug for 30 Days of Night.
Well, before we get into the comic book, which we'll do in the moving panel section, since it is only based off of the one series and not multiple ones, let's just go ahead and get into talking about the movie itself. So when did you first see the movie 30 Days of Night?
2007. I saw it when it came out.
Yep. Released October 19th, 2007.
I remember going to the theater with a couple of buddies. Didn't know much about it at the time, other than the fact that it was obviously going to be a vampire movie, and I'm a big horror movie fan. I love vampires, werewolves, the mummies, and all that kind of stuff. So knew I wanted to go see it, went and saw it, and was fascinated to no end with it. Immediately went out and found the graphic novel and checked it out.
So you didn't know it was a comic book before?
I did not. No, had no idea.
Okay. And you knew from the credits?
No, I knew after doing what limited research you could do on the internet.
In 2007.
I went and, so I'm the kind of person that after I watch a movie, I like to go and read what other people think about the movie.
Yes, whereas people now just do that on their phone while watching the movie.
Yeah. So while they're watching it in the movie theater, they just sit there and look. But yeah, afterwards I like to go and check out and see if my viewpoint lines up with some other people's and maybe some interpretations that they had from the movie I may not have had. But somebody posted on one of the chats I was reading that it was a comic, and I want to say either the next day or the day after, because the movie came out on a Friday. So probably on Saturday, I think I went out and got the comic book, and I have the original copy that I bought in 2007 still sitting on my shelf.
Very nice,
right now.
Very nice. I don't think I saw it until it was released on DVD.
Okay.
I probably was still working at Blockbuster at the time, so
what a job! First of all, super jealous, Laramy. Incredibly jealous of your Blockbuster past life.
Yeah, so I snatched it up as soon as we got it, because we could always, as soon as it came in, we as employees you could rent it.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't rent it once it was actually available to the public.
Nice.
There was I forgot what the grace period was, but there was you had to wait so long after it was released to the public before you could rent it.
Because this was
without paying for it. We had to pay for it. Yeah.
This was the day when stuff was flying off the shelves of Blockbuster, right? Like you couldn't.
When I worked there, it was When I worked there, it was still it was crazy. But enough about the Blockbuster talk. I saw it, and I didn't see it until it came out in DVD. I've always been a big vampire fan.
Yeah.
And then to find out, as the big movie buff also that I am, that this movie was produced by Sam Raimi.
Yeah, man. How about that?
Yeah. Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert just made me happy because I'm a huge fan of both of them. We'll probably watch anything that has either of their names on it.
Especially Sam Raimi for me. Like anything he does.
Yeah, I would be kind of curious to know why he didn't direct it.
And I wonder, and probably you the same thing, would this have been a better movie if he'd have directed it also?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would have been. The style would have been different.
Could he have salvaged some of what was wrong, so to speak, with the movie?
Yeah, I don't know, because Sam Raimi, although I love his style, I don't know if it would fit this story.
Okay.
That would be my only concern. Now, David Slade, who directed it, you want to talk about a wide range of movies.
Yeah, the dude's done a lot.
and it's all over the place. I will say, though, the movie he did before this one, Hard Candy. If you've never seen Hard Candy,
whoa,
yeah, go see Hard Candy. It's not a movie you're going to want to rewatch a lot.
A young Patrick Wilson, if I'm right, yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson and Ellen Page at the time.
Yep.
Yeah, but you want to talk about a good movie.
Off tangent real quick, I had no idea about that movie when I popped it in to watch. Didn't know what to expect. I watched it once, have not watched it again.
Oh, no, that's what I said. It's not a movie you're going to want to rewatch.
No, not at all.
But you won't be upset that you've watched it.
It's super good. It's very good.
It's a great movie, because I think I've only seen it once.
Yeah, that's one of those where I was like, not seeing it again.
I think David Slade did a good job with what he could.
Yeah, I mean, you had a marble slab acting for you in the lead role, so it's not much you can really do.
Yeah, and then also you're taking, and again, we'll get into the comic more, but just to mention it quick here, you're taking what is a very stylized graphic novel.
Very, incredibly so.
And you're trying to make it realistic.
And you can tell
you're trying to bring it into the real world.
He's trying to do that because in the movie, everything's very blue. So the red of all the gore that happens does stand out to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So you get that kind of comic book stylized look just based on what you choose for the palette of the movie. So that I did like that. I thought that was a good choice.
Because you can't. The big dilemma is, how do you do a movie that takes place entirely in darkness?
In darkness, yeah.
How do you make that a movie?
You should just get Chad to give you an idea, right? Chad can help us out on how to film movies in the dark.
Well, Chad lives in a different part of Alaska. He's not
Laramy.
He's not in that part.
If there's one thing they teach you in school, it's that all of Alaska is the exact same. Okay, every part of Alaska is the same.
Yeah, just like the United States, because it's the same size as the United
Everything
States.
is New York City. You didn't know that?
Because this is set in Barrow, Alaska, which they say is the northernmost point of the United States. Mm-hmm. And I had to find out, was that a fictional town or not? And it is not.
It's real.
It is real. It is not called Barrow anymore. No. They changed their name in 2016 to a name I cannot pronounce. It's Yutki-Avik. I'm sure it's a indigenous name.
We are sorry to anyone we just offended.
Yeah. Also. So if I mispronounce that, I apologize. I'll spell it: Utquiavik.
Anyone who can tell us how to pronounce that, please reach out to us.
Yeah, but they changed the name. It was Barrow, Alaska. Now it's whatever that is. So yeah, real place, and it is the most northern point of the United States.
Well, I think one of the lines was it Joe in the movie was like, "Welcome to the top of the world," and after he runs over everybody. Yeah. Not you can live in higher places in Canada,
right? But in the United States, that is the highest point, the most northern point that you can live is in this town there.
You can see Russia from your back porch. Just ask. Never mind. Sorry, that was going to go a different direction.
Moving on. Let's get into the characters. We're going to hit these kind of quickly. We'll talk about the characters more in detail when we do talk about the comic. But we'll focus on the performances right here.
Yes.
So of course our main character, Eben. Is it Eben? Eben. I did discover that apparently it's short for Ebenezer.
Oh, see? There you go.
So your main character is named Ebenezer Olsen. Mm-hmm. Even though it's Is it Ullman in the comics?
Yeah, it's not Olsen in the comics. It's been a minute since I've read the actual comic, but I want to say it's Oldman or Allman.
Yeah, well, it's Olemaun. So
Oman, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and here he is played by the real life mannequin Josh Hartnett, who not only can barely bring across any type of human emotion, but he can barely grow any type of facial hair.
Oh, I know. It's like this is supposed to be 30 days.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Straight out of the Sears department store window, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Hartnett. Yeah, he's okay. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way.
30 days, 30 nights. I'm sorry, that's
40.
That's 40 days,
movie.
40 nights. Yeah,
with this movie, and I look.
This is a sequel to that, isn't it?
Oh, no, that's a different thing entirely.
He went from having to go 40 days without doing something to now 30 days without doing something.
Yeah. Again, family-friendly episode here, Larry. So I looked up Josh Hartnett's run of films because I was like, this seems like just a guy in some bad luck. No, let me run this off for you on why you should stay away from Josh Hartnett. Does The Faculty ring a bell, Laramy?
Okay, The Faculty's good.
Okay, hold on.
I'm not going to diss The Faculty.
Pearl Harbor ring a bell?
Yeah, that's bad.
Black Hawk Down?
Okay, that's a good movie.
And Halloween H2O. I'm not disputing the movies.
Yeah.
I'm saying Josh Hartnett is a magnet for disaster. Anything he's in is catastrophic.
Hold on. Hollywood Homicide.
Hollywood Homicide.
Yeah,
Black Dahlia. Okay? Lucky Number 11. If he's around, bad things are happening to people. Stay away from Josh Hartnett.
Now, I will talk about, he did do another comic book movie. He's in Sin City.
He is. I did see he was in that.
And, you know, it's just enough of him that it is tolerable.
That's because his character was supposed to be a mannequin in Sin City. He wasn't supposed to have any emotion at all. He did a great job playing who he is. But I remember seeing it in theaters, Laramy, and loving the movie. And I still really, really love the movie. I just forgot how bad of an actor Josh Hartnett is. And I hate that. Sorry, Josh.
Yeah.
It's just... there's.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, he seems friendly enough. But there's zero emotion, urgency.
Now I've heard he's good in Penny Dreadful, but I've never seen.
I've never seen Penny Dreadful. I have not, and I hear that it's an excellent show. Haven't watched it, but in this, he may as well have been frozen in a block of that Alaskan ice because that's about as much as he was giving to the camera.
Yeah. So we'll talk about the character really quick. And I've only read through 30 Days of Night once, and that was very recently. But weren't you under the impression that Eben is like Inuit, like he is?
Yeah. So in the comic, I don't know if it's inferred, but it's certainly implied that he is indigenous to the area.
Yeah.
And here
in which Josh Hartnett is not.
We certainly have whitewashed that character if that is the case. And you would think that the setting would lend itself to have characters who are of Alaskan heritage, indigenous heritage. And instead, if I'm not mistaken, you might have one character who would be considered.
You saw some like
Inuit.
in background as they're getting ready to leave.
Right.
But yeah, of any character that actually was a part of the story, I think you had the one.
Yeah. So that's certainly unfortunate and obviously a sign of the times of the movie making at that point in time. And
a sign of the fact that they filmed this in New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was not in Alaska at all.
No, yeah.
And Lord of the Rings, right? There we go. Just two of the greatest movies ever filmed.
So a lot of locals to New Zealand were in the movie.
Yikes.
All right, moving on. You had his... And we'll talk about this more. So I want to preface before we get into this too much, but talk about his estranged wife, Stella.
It's just
played by
just strange wife. Okay.
Yeah.
Not even
played by Melissa George, who honestly the only thing I ever think of with her is that she played Kathy Lutz in the Amityville Horror remake.
I forgot about that. She did, didn't she?
Yep, that's the only thing I ever think of when I see her.
Is she in anything else? of
Yeah,
note?
there was this television show called The Slap that I know she did.
Is that
But I
about what it
never.
sounds like it's about?
Yeah, it's about a slap,
Oh, okay.
but I never watched it,
Is that
so I can't.
Is that a
I
prequel to the
can't connect
Chris
her with
Rock
it.
and Will Smith incident?
No, it was. I think it was loosely based on a true story,
Oh, okay.
and it was. There was just this minor accident where a guy slaps this couple's child who
Oh,
was
like a
misbehaving.
backyard party or something. I think I remember.
Yeah,
that.
and then they
Okay.
created a whole television show around it.
Okay, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. We had to walk down that path for me to be able to refocus. Yeah.
Yep.
So she is in Amityville Horror. Forgot about that. Is she? And maybe you can tell me. Is she like British? I feel like she has an accent in part of the movie when I'm watching it.
She's Australian.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes she has a very American accent, and then other times this other accent bleeds through. It feels like, no pun intended for the movie, but it feels like there's something else going on there.
Yeah. But again, talking about not remembering, I actually get her confused sometimes with.
Say it. Say the name that I want you to say.
Oh, I really doubt I'm going to say the name you're thinking. I was going to say Estella Warren.
Oh no, that's not
because
the same
she's
person.
another one of those, like, you almost forget who she is, actresses. She's Canadian.
Okay.
But I always associate her with, she's the female character in Kangaroo Jack.
Oh God, Laramy. Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah. Well, she was also the female, like the human female lead in the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
So you can't tell me they don't look
yeah.
alike.
Well, I was going Eliza. I think it's Eliza Dushku. Isn't that the blonde?
Oh no! Eliza Dushku's brownhead. Eliza Dushku?
Who's the Eliza that plays on the ranch? She's blonde-headed. She was also in The Girl Next Door with Timothy Olyphant.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Elijah.
Elijah Cuthbert?
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, she was on 24.
Yeah. That's who I confused her with. At first, that's who I thought it was.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
Okay, well, thanks for throwing me a bone there.
But yeah. So, but I also think you kind of run into a little bit of, she doesn't give much either.
No, she doesn't at all.
I mean, she definitely gives more than Josh Hartnett.
So does the snow falling on the ground, Laramy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about a good actor, though. Danny Houston.
Yeah, man.
Who plays Marlowe, who I only know the character is named Marlowe because of the comic book.
They never give him a name in the movie.
They do not say his name in the movie. I don't think it's said at all, and even if it is said, they speak another language, and so you don't hear it.
I tried to look up if that was based on any real language. Did you find anything about that?
I watched something about it, and it was just they were trying to make it sound
like almost
very
Aramaic, almost very like Sumerian.
Yeah, very old,
yeah.
and
okay.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, Danny Houston, who is giving his all
as
in this movie.
Dude,
pretty sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Pretty sure he. No, you're fine. I'm pretty sure he took a hit of something before he played this character, but
dude,
but he gives it his all.
The scene where they're using the girl as bait, and she asks him like she's begging, like, please God.
She's begging,
and he looks up and around and says, "No God." Chills.
No God.
Like absolute chills. I can remember in the theater seeing that and just being terrified at that one delivery. So he does a great job.
And of course, this is a much better comic book movie for him than the other comic book movie he was in.
No, Laramy.
Where he played Stryker in the movie that shall not be named.
Oh, Laramy.
Yeah, just remember he was also in that.
At least the CGI in this was better than that other one.
At least everything.
Everything was better than the other one.
Yeah, except Josh Hartnett.
Maybe Hugh Jackman should have played Evan, and then we could have had a real redemption story.
Yeah. And then also another X-Men connection, which we mentioned already, Ben Foster.
Yeah, apparently my twin, my doppelganger there.
Yeah, playing the unnamed stranger who... Is he the familiar?
Yeah,
of the
I think
vampires?
He's considered their familiar. Yeah,
which is something else we'll get into when we're talking about the story. in the comic. But
even he,
but I gotta tell you, you can talk about
outacts.
another great performance. And I did hear he's a method actor, and so it's pretty much like once he comes on set, he's in character. But he doesn't do it in the annoying way like some other actors do.
Are you referencing Jared Leto right now?
I mean, look, Jim Carrey's done it.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis, I think, gets a little bit
real method,
gets a little too far into it sometimes. But yeah, Ben Foster, who has, honestly, in my opinion, Ben Foster has successfully done what Shia LaBeouf has tried to do.
Right. Yeah, he's got that particular market on lock.
Well, and started off as a Disney kid actor.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people forget the flash forward little Disney sitcom that Ben Foster was on.
Good show.
Yeah, and I wish they would put it on something.
Yeah.
But I can't find it anywhere. But yeah, Ben Foster's great. He can work with anybody. I mean, Josh Hartnett couldn't work with Bruce Willis in Lucky Number 11, but Ben Foster could in Hostages.
Yeah, man.
So
great movie.
That's a good one. Yeah. But yeah, great performance there by Ben Foster, who, like I said, X-Men Connection, because for those of you who don't remember, he played Angel, Warren Worthington in X-Men The Last Stand.
Give Ben Foster more roles, people. Let me say that real quick. I want to see Ben Foster.
Yeah, he's in a lot of independent stuff. Right. He's not in a lot of mainstream stuff.
The mainstream stuff, he's in very small roles too. Like I wish he had a bigger spotlight. That's all.
Yeah. Just to throw this one out, if you've never seen The Messenger, with Ben Foster, that's a great one.
Oh, that is it's a hard watch too, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one you probably won't watch twice. Yeah. But
is that Woody Harrelson in that with him?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
They both are excellent in that. Yeah.
Yeah. Some other people to mention playing Bo Brower is Mark Boone Jr. Most people would probably know him from Sons of Anarchy. Yep. I knew him as Flass from Batman Begins.
Detective Flass. Good for you, Laramy.
Detective Flass.
Anytime we can work in a Batman reference, I'm all for it.
There we go. And then I also recognized Manu Bennett, who was playing Billy Kitka, the deputy. Yep. You may not have realized this, but he's Slade Wilson from Arrow.
Oh, I did not know that.
He played Deathstroke in the Arrow television show.
But I can really see that. Like, he would make a great Deathstroke. Yeah. Okay.
He's also Azog in the Hobbit movies. You know, the giant orc.
Okay.
In the first two of the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, I can see that now. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. That's even though he's all CGI.
It's hard to recognize.
But that's him too. Yeah. And then another one I wanted to throw out is Eben's younger brother, Jake, played by Mark Rendell. Mark Rendell, voice of Arthur on the PBS Kids show from 2001 to 2003. Yeah.
Wow. Now that might be the most famous role of anybody that's played on that show right there.
Definitely more famous than anything Josh Hartnett's ever done.
Yikes. We are... look... For any Josh Hartnett fan that may be listening, we are just going...
There's no Josh Hartnett fan. Okay, well, what are you talking about?
All right, fair enough. Never mind. We're going to continue to go in on Josh Hartnett then. Wicker Park needs to be burned to the ground, all right? And for those of you that
I never even saw that one.
So bad. Oh,
I remember it, but I didn't see it.
Awful.
Yeah. Again, I know what you're talking about, but I never saw it.
Ugh.
So all of these characters, there's other characters, but nothing really to talk about.
Major roles.
So of all these characters, just ignoring the whole live or die, because they have done prequels to this movie.
Yep.
Who do you want to see again, and who do you wish would get their face punched in?
Who do I want to see again? Probably Arthur. I'd love to see Arthur again. Just because he just trying to survive the night. He had no idea what was going on or how to handle himself.
He had no problem killing that little girl.
But had no problem. That's what I was just about to go with. When it came down to it, he was ready to do what needed to be done.
Look, his aim too,
dude, brutal. The guy has chopped wood clearly before. He has made firewood.
because you have to think about there were people holding her.
How he didn't cut someone else's head off, I have no idea.
So how he swung that with such great accuracy.
Great tale. So I would like to see him continue on in the 30 Days universe, maybe traveling the world, taking out the vampires. But the person I want to see get their face punched in got their just desserts, and that was Billy, because the dude murdered his whole family before the vampires even get there.
Yeah, that was a rough reveal.
Yeah. No, you don't. I'm with Josh Hartnett now. I am with Josh Hartnett on that. You don't hurt your family.
Yeah.
Never. But he gets his later on.
Well, because... Yeah, but it was so rough, because at the beginning of the movie when he's introduced, he's got all the pictures.
Yeah, he's
of his family.
Oh, he loves his family. Yeah. So,
and they go, and Josh Hartnett's even asking him, when do they come? They should come and now, spend some time here. And
I realize I'm a bit hypocritical, because if you've ever seen The Mist, I am a massive fan of the ending of The Mist. I think it is one of, if not the best movie endings ever.
Movie, not book.
Book, yeah. The book is different than the movie.
Yeah. The movie ending.
The movie ending. So I realize it's a bit hypocritical if you've seen The Mist for me to say I don't like Billy in this situation, but I love the ending of The Mist. You'll just have to give me some suspense of disbelief, I guess, on that one.
Yeah, it's a little different though.
It is.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So
how about you? Who are you hoping has made it and lives on to fight another day?
So I'm kind of with you. I think with introducing Jake and with having, because he's not in the comic. I don't remember seeing him in the comic. No, there is no younger brother in the comic. So I think with introducing Jake, and then if you wanted to do something like a franchise, I think you had a great idea of making him like a vampire hunter.
Yeah, a Van Helsing-esque kind of character. Yeah,
and him going around. Trying to protect these other cities or towns or small towns or whatever. He's learned how to track them.
Yeah.
Or get information from the vampires on where another one of their group goes. I think that would have been a very fascinating way to continue it. Even if they were to have done that in a series, because I know they've done a couple of series.
Yeah, they've tried. I haven't
watched any of them,
it's not very good. And then who are you like offing? Like, who do you not want to see any more of?
I can't remember the character's name, but it was the dude with the dad who had dementia.
Oh, yeah. That guy, because he like runs out after his father and blows everybody's cover.
Well, because he's the guy you have to have in a movie like this.
Right.
He's the one that's like, we've got to go. It's going to be better. Yeah, some of us might die, but, it gives a chance for some of us to live. And, he's just one like, dude,
you just want to be like, okay, we'll put you outside and see what happens. You go ahead and go.
Which is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So, you know what I would have actually loved to have seen, though? I would have loved to have seen an end credit scene of his dad walking
to Wainwright.
Into Wainwright. Yeah.
80 miles away.
That his dad actually survived, and you just see him walking down the road, and you see the Welcome to Wainwright sign. I think that would have been great. I would have loved to have seen that.
A nice comedic ending to a horror movie.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Well, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from three nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the moving panels. So you didn't know this was a comic book before watching the movie?
Correct, had no clue.
Yeah, the comic book was released in August of 2002. It was written by Steve Niles and drawn by Ben Templesmith. Here's an amazing thing I found out. Ben Templesmith was 16 years old
Yep.
when he drew this comic.
Yep, because I really like Templesmith stuff. Like if he draws something, I usually try to read it because I just enjoy his artistry. So yeah, found out I thought he was 17, but 16, 17 when
16, 17.
when he did this.
I think he was 18 when it was released.
Okay.
I think is
Yeah, I mean, incredibly talented. So yeah, good for him.
Yeah. It's a very unique style. It's very rough. He doesn't. There isn't a. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a lot of lines.
So he reminds me a lot of.
He doesn't color between the lines.
He reminds me a lot of Jock. If you have read anything where Jock has been the illustrator, he does a lot of Batman stuff, but it's a lot of rough edges, not a lot of finished lines. A lot of you get to kind of fill in the rest of the shape kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's a human form.
Yeah, I really like that look.
Well, and even the subtle thing, I didn't catch this until I was kind of flipping through the comic while I was doing I read it, and then as I was flipping through it, trying to make some of the connections, I didn't realize that, like Marlowe, for instance, when they show Marlowe, his name is like drawn,
like inside,
like behind him. Yeah, and the same thing when V arrives, like their name is in the artwork.
Yeah, it's like almost hanging over them like a title.
Yeah, and so I thought that was a very unique thing. But Stephen Niles, he came up with the idea, and he pitched it as a movie first, and then when he kept getting rejected, he decided, okay, I'm going to make it a comic book. And then once the comic book came out, which, a lot of people said that this comic, which again, I didn't hear of either until the time the movie came out, but a lot of people say that this comic was really kind of the rebirth of the horror comic.
I could say that, sure.
And that if it wasn't for the success of 30 Days of Night, Image may not have been willing to give Robert Kirkman the ability to do Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Which was just like a year or two later.
Yep. Wow.
So, yeah, that is kind of interesting to find that out. But yeah, IDW was the one who published the comic. And look, if y'all want to go out and read it, it's only 3 issues.
Yeah, it's not long at all.
Yeah, it's 3 issues that are only about 20 pages each. And that tells the whole story of this movie. I mean, again, they did continue. Dark Day is the sequel, and they did continue it more. I don't know the names of all the other 30 Days of Night storylines. And Stephen Niles and Ben Templesmith did not stay with the whole series, so it does eventually reach a point where it looks more like a actual comic.
Yes.
And it kind of loses some of that stylistic nature,
which I think
that he has.
That's what lent itself to the story. It made it. The artwork made the story scarier because, again, there was no certainty about what you were looking at. The uncertainty made you uneasy reading the story.
It definitely added to the horror.
Right.
Reading the comic. I mean, there's pages where there's maybe 2 speech bubbles.
Yeah.
On the entire page.
But there's so much being told in the artwork. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And there's and I think with the art being so stylized, you also have the built-in pressure of what am I looking at?
Yeah. You spend more time in the comic, like on the page. And I think that if you're reading any good comic, that's what you want. You want to be sucked in, so to speak. And that type of artwork creates a world where you have to submerge yourself in that world.
And speaking of, let's get into kind of the lore.
Yeah.
Me, again, big vampire guy, and I'm always about the lore of the vampire. With the Buffy stuff, and I was a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, and just what is it that a vampire can do, can't do, what abilities do they have? Mm-hmm. I'm all about that. The lore in this is very fascinating. So in the comic book, they have a little bit of a background.
Right.
We know that they are. It kind of reminded me a lot of the Blade story.
Yep.
Or Underworld, where there are these elders, and there's this hierarchy, and they have, I don't know if you would call them sects, or they have just little collections.
Yeah, it's like just groups of
tribes, groups, yeah. And so you've got in this one, you got Marlowe, who's got his group, which I'm going to pause here really quick. How did they get there?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no clue.
Now, I think in the movie you're supposed to assume it's the boat.
Yeah. But in the comic, I don't think there's even there's not even an implicit suggestion at how they got there. Yeah. Now, one might think, okay, can they fly? You never see them fly. But can they fly? Are you supposed to say, okay, a boat got them there in the comic too because of where they are?
Yeah. Because Vincent can definitely jump really high.
Really high.
As we find out in the comic. So let's talk about Vincent really quick, because Vincent's not in the movie. So Marlowe brings this group to Barrow, lays out this whole plan. He then emails Vincent, which we'll get into the little bit about the email in a minute. But he emails Vincent to tell him the plan. Vincent then arrives in Barrow in order to punish Marlowe. I mean, straight up murders him.
Absolutely, without regard for human life or inhuman life, for that matter.
Yeah. So that, I think that was an interesting twist in the comic to find out Marlowe's not really the one in charge. Right. That it was Vincent, because he thinks this is a horrible idea, and which they give this speech to Marlowe in the movie of, we spent thousands of years trying to convince the world we didn't exist.
Yep.
And we can't do something like this to give them a thought that we do exist, which of course only raised the question for me: if you've existed for thousands of years, why didn't anyone ever think of attacking the northern part of the world before?
Let's go to the place where it's dark all the time, somebody.
Yeah.
They're mindless vampires. They think about drinking blood and tearing flesh from bone. So I don't know that maybe they plan very well.
So this is another thing. When we're talking with the lore, are they vampires? Because vampires is never said.
So, and I think that's one of my favorite parts of this particular comic, movie, whatever, is and I just said a minute ago, your ability to project your beliefs and opinions onto what's going on. It allows for so much interpretation. It can be, a vampire. It can be the boogeyman. It can be the babagoo, like whatever you want to call it. And you can kind of take what you want to and take what you want out of it.
Now, I do know that later in the series, they do refer to their... Yeah. They refer to them as the Nosferatu.
Yeah, so the vampire.
Is what they call themselves. But they don't seem to have any of the vampire weaknesses other than sunlight.
Yeah, light. And they got they don't have the traditional just two fangs. Like all their teeth are very sharp.
They got like shark teeth.
They have the pale skin. So I think you can kind of go they're vampires because they're pale skinned. But I would have liked to have seen somebody say, because vampires are mentioned. I think. And
it's like very briefly in the
they're
movie.
Oh, they're vampires. So why were we not trying crosses, any type of blessed water, like anything? If you think they're vampires,
garlic,
try the traditional vampire things.
Well, they do a lot where, because even I know in the comic, they do a lot to say that they're not susceptible to the traditional vampire.
Right.
Even the sunlight, apparently they can revive from being burned from the sunlight, which this movie doesn't get into, nor does the original 3 issues.
Right.
And then we talked about the language. I'm just going to bring this up. They speak English in the comic book.
Yeah, they do. The whole time, pretty much. Yeah.
And then the movie, they give them this language. And they even have, like you said, Danny Houston kind of does the no god. Yeah. Like you can tell he knew enough English to know how to say that. But my question behind that is when you become a vampire in this universe, do you automatically know that language?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you're also looking like the little girl spoke straight up English. And my assumption with them saying that nobody recognized her was that she came with them, which is what happens in the comic.
Yeah.
She's with them in the comic. And so the language thing I didn't understand.
Well, I think, too, the thing that really bothers me in the movie is if you've been alive and pillaging and plundering for thousands of years, somewhere along the line you're going to pick up English. Like, you're just going to pick it up. And so to only speak this archaic language kind of threw me. Not that I minded reading the subtitle. I don't mind movies with subtitles at all.
No,
but,
and it wasn't overly done.
But they're interacting with people who speak English. You would think these creatures who have been around for forever would know enough to be able to communicate with them via English.
It's fine if they have a language in order to communicate with each other so that the humans don't know.
True. But when they're speaking to the humans, you would think we're going to talk to them in English.
Yeah. So that was a little bit. In the comic, we talked about vampire hunters. There are vampire hunters in the comic. Yeah. They are just kind of there in the first three issues.
Kind of show up, yeah.
Yeah, they're based in New Orleans. We don't know why, but they're based in New Orleans. There's this mother and son team where
some good bonding.
They have this other guy who has, hacked this email, because that's something you could do in the early 2000s, just hack an email, which is the email I talked about earlier that Marlowe sends to a V, which we find out is Vincent later. Yeah. It tells them the whole story. Hey, we found this town. A
lot of exposition happens in this email.
And then again, you assume they're vampire hunters, but yet they seem to be just like paranormal investigators, because she just says, go up there and film this, but don't get involved. Just film it, and it'll immediately come to us.
In 5 years, we're going to upload this on YouTube, and it'll be viral. So please get up there and film it. Yeah,
but I also love how she says, but be careful. Stay high. Make sure that
exactly where the vampires are.
You're just, and then she hands him a gun, and he was like, "Well, this isn't going to do anything." No, the gun's for you, sweetie.
Just in case.
And then the next thing we know is, hey, there he is in Alaska, and then he's killed by Vincent. Yeah. And that was it. That was it. Gun, apparently, you find out more about them as the series goes along.
Gun didn't come in handy, but yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, one of the TV shows that was called Blood Trails, which again never watched,
wasn't good.
But apparently, it focused on this group of vampire hunters. But yeah, not. I was fine with leaving them out of the movie because there wasn't much to them in the comic.
Yeah.
So, but what there was a lot to, and I wanted to talk about, was the relationship between Eben and Stella.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in the comic, they are happily married.
They're solid.
They are. It's the two of them who discover the cell phones at the beginning. Yep. Then they decide to sit and watch the sunset because it's the last sunset, and it's this sweet little moment, which then is a great connection to the end.
Good callback at the end. Yep.
Yeah, callback at the end of them watching the sunrise. But in this movie, they are estranged for some reason.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of stuff that's implied about like kids or having kids, and somebody.
Yeah, there's the one line about the kids.
So
and
I don't know if they lost a kid, maybe the miscarriage, or
I took it more of she just didn't want to have kids. And he did.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. Sure.
That's because of the line that he throws to her at one point. But it was just so weird. It was like, I need, if you're gonna focus so much on these two and their relationship, you gotta give me more.
Yeah, it made no sense to make them estranged in the comic, other than the simple fact of you wanted some internal conflict to go with your external conflict of the vampires, and to have these two characters battling their desire for not each other with each other, along with the fighting off these creatures. But it's it would have made the ending much better for me had they been good the whole time. Because at the end, and I guess I'm gonna jump to the end here. So
You're fine.
At the very end, Josh Hartnett, Eben has become a vampire so that he can take on this crew, and he and Stella watch the sunrise together. And as the sun comes up, he fades into ashes, which is a very cool, aesthetically cool scene to watch. I would have been much more invested in it if they'd been great the whole time. I would have thought, gosh, she is losing the absolute love of her life. He is gone. But I sat watching...
Which makes the sequel make more sense.
Right, correct.
Because,
correct.
that is the story. The story of the sequel, just to put this out there, the story of the sequel is Stella then decides to go down to the contiguous U.S., Los Angeles to be exact, and she starts to expose the vampires to the world.
Right.
Which again makes a lot more sense when she's more connected to him.
Because
a subplot of that story is that she discovers a way to bring him back.
Yeah. Again,
which we'll leave that there.
I would have been more invested though, because for the movie it just seemed like, oh, okay, well, she didn't want to be with him anyway, so it should be good for her that he's disappeared into ash and dust now.
Yeah. Talk about that ending, though, because we talked about The Mist and how the ending in the movie, which Stephen King himself has said, the ending of the movie is better.
He was like, I think he said, I wish I would have written it like the movie. Yeah.
Do you really think this ending works? Because the idea, there is nowhere, talking about that lore again, there was nowhere that indicates that he should be able to take the blood of a vampire or a person about to become a vampire, which is what they do in both the comic and the movie. Is it someone who was in the process of turning, and then inject himself with it, and it would give him the powers of the vampire, as well as what made him think that he wouldn't just immediately kill everybody.
Yeah, how is he able to no one else is able to control the urge, but I tell you what, that
well, in the movie, now hold up, in the movie,
there was one.
Billy does.
Yes, you're right.
Billy does. He fights it for as long as he can.
You're right. Well, I was going to give some credit to that just rock of a man, Josh Hartnett, for withholding, but you're right. There is another character who does. And then also his ability to fight. Like, I thought this in both the comic and the movie. Like, you've got, it's Marlowe in the movie, but it's Vincent in the comic, who you assume have, like you said, they have existed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Right.
And so they have experience with their ability. Now, and to me, it's so cheesy. In the comic, while they're fighting, the other vampires are like commentating.
Yeah, they're just like spectating and talking about it.
But they're also, they're going, oh, he's learning so quickly. They're talking about Eben. But that's the thing. Like, but how? Like, what makes him all of a sudden a good fighter? Now, he does get, in both the comic and the movie, he does kind of get beaten up a little bit at the beginning, but that's going to happen for dramatic effect. Right. He's not all of a sudden going to be, a Superman as a vampire.
Had to throw that in there, didn't you? Just one Superman reference a show. Okay.
Yeah, you had your Batman reference earlier.
Fair enough.
I just didn't get, and then in both cases, because the death of the main villain is the same in both. Yeah. Just, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm just going to punch you straight through your head.
Right through there. Why not do that to begin with?
So, I can't say I can think of another way to end it, but I had a problem with that ending for both the comic and the movie.
Yeah, he almost comes by his victory too easily just because he turned into one of these things. He all of a sudden knows how to handle them.
Yeah, there wasn't enough explanation as to how he was able to do that. Right.
Yeah, and typically your vampire lore is you become a vampire through a bite, not drinking their blood. So that's a little
Well, or yeah.
Yeah, a little.
Well, but in both the comic and the movie, they imply that even just a scratch,
Yeah, would
can turn you.
but not just drinking their blood. I've never. Yeah, that was I don't know.
Well, he doesn't drink it; he
Injects it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that that's again enough explanation to say, oh, now he becomes one of them and he knows all of their abilities or strengths or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So the other big kind of plot hole for me is the whole 30 days of night.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about the timeline there, Laramy.
Yeah. Yeah. Why did you need 30 days? Because they seem to pretty much devastate the entire town in one night.
Could have been one day of night.
Yeah. And then it's only because we get a little, pop up that says like day 7.
Yeah.
And then we get another one later. Because honestly, I'm sitting there going, wait, how long has it been? And then all of a sudden we get another one that says day 18. Yeah. And the comic does it even worse. Like the comic's just going along and all of a sudden they go, all right, it's been 27 days.
What? Wait a minute.
What? And they're chilling in a basement. And I'm just going, in both cases, I'm like, how have you survived this long?
Well, you have to have a pee corner, first of all. Like, that's the first thing you have to establish.
Yeah, well, I do like in the movie where they're like, I got to go to the bathroom. So, okay, but just remember, you can't flush it. And I'm still sitting there going, what is in that toilet?
Yeah, what's in there? Oh, God.
Like, how? You've been in there for how many days?
That is
what is in that toilet?
That is a Woodstock porta potty type toilet in there right now. Like, you do not want to go in there. Yeah, it's
like is someone scooping that out like on a regular basis and tossing it out the window?
Yeah, the timeline's weird because if you're like me and you're basing it on Josh Hartnett's facial hair, they've been trapped for about 8 hours, or what you would think would be 8 hours, I guess.
But so I did like that at the beginning they have Billy, not Billy, Billy. They have Billy change the
sign.
The sign, and so we know there's 152 people.
Right.
And then 15 minutes later, there's
9. Yeah.
There's 7. So again, why did you need 30 days? And then why is it so hard for you to find these 7 people?
Yeah, dude, you have this apparently
because there's what 20 vampires.
They've got this super sense of smell. It's implied, and so
which I think they also imply. I think they do this in the comic, not in the movie. They imply that the cold does
tamper. Yeah.
Sure. But okay, whatever. But even if you were to just, okay, well, you know what? It's been a couple of days. Let's just walk house to house.
Yeah, and just go through every single square inch.
Yeah. Or if your plan is to burn the place down to begin with.
Do it ahead of time.
Just do it one building at a time.
Laramy, and they're so loud in that attic in the movie.
Oh, my goodness.
How do you not...
Goodness, if that was an Anne Frank movie, they would have long been been captured.
Oh, no.
But...
Oh.
You can't help but think that
I did.
Yeah.
I did a little bit. Oof. I don't know if we can come back from that one. That's a first. I don't think we've had an episode where we reference the Nazi regime in Germany. Yeah, so if there was a diary written in this movie, it would be, everyone in here is too loud. We're going to die.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, the smell coming from the bathroom below us.
Yeah. Larry's dad won't shut up about his dead wife. We're all doomed.
But yeah, that was just my other problem with it. And then there's what, 20 vampires?
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
So if there's 152 people, 20 vampires, I mean, that's not a great ratio there for their food consumption.
Not at all.
In my opinion.
Not at all. Well, too, if I'm the vampires, like, I'm going to see that sign on the outskirts of town and be like, all right, we've killed this one. We're missing 7 people, guys. There's 7 people somewhere.
Yeah. We've been around for enough years. We know how to do math.
Yeah, we can count. Where's my abacus?
Yeah. It's just, and honestly, the comic is even more unbelievable because they're hiding in like a cellar, which first off, there's not going to be a
cellar in Alaska.
in the northernmost point of the United States. There's not going to be a cellar.
You can't dig a hole that deep in there.
But they're hiding in a cellar smack in the middle of town.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Like at least in the movie, they imply that they're a little off of the main stretch. But in the comic book, they're in the main stretch of road there. Yeah. So found that I had a hard time with that. But let's go ahead and get into our final decision. Bag it, stack it, or trade it. Go ahead, Blake. What say you about 30 Days of Night?
Well, if I were to write a journal entry about this and talk about my feelings, I would definitely stack it. It's good enough to keep around and watch every now and then, especially around Halloween. I enjoy watching it in a couple other movies. So I'd like to keep it. It's not something I want to keep in pristine shape. Don't really care about it that much, mostly because of Josh Hartnett's acting, as we've mentioned ad nauseum. But yeah, it's good enough to keep around, stack it. I enjoy watching it occasionally.
Yeah, it's a stack it for me. I don't dislike it. I think the whole 30 Days of Night premise, I think it's a great premise. Yeah. I don't think it was executed both in the comic and the movie. I don't think it was executed perfectly.
Sure.
Again, I think if you're going to do 30 days, then find somewhere, some way for it to stretch out to the 30 days.
Yep.
But unlike, you just said you watch it every Halloween. You were the one that brought this up.
Yeah.
I don't think about this movie.
Oh, wow. Okay. Just not something that comes on your radar, really?
No, I tend to forget about it. Even when I initially started up this podcast and I'm coming up with a list of movies to do, I don't think it was originally on my list because I just totally forgot about it. It's not a bad movie. It's worth a watch. Could you rewatch it? Sure, maybe after a couple of years.
I mean, and so here's the thing. When I say stack it, I rewatched this a couple of days ago just to catch up on it. And while I was rewatching it, I was working on wedding decorations. Like it's just it's something to have on in the background.
It's a good background.
Yeah.
Movie.
So
yeah, I won't give you that, but also like I've talked about a lot through this episode, I'm fine with not getting a lot of explanation.
Yeah.
This movie needed some.
It needed some. Yeah, there's a lot of lore that you missed out on that you needed.
There's just something. Again, I'm fine with you not giving some background. I'm fine. Again, I'm fine with them just showing up.
Yeah.
And not explaining how they got there, but I needed more as to why they spoke in a different language.
Sure.
I need more as to, are they really fast vampires or are they slow and methodical vampires? Because that was that went back and forth. Because and then Hartnett is just dull.
It's bad. It's really bad. I know, and I want to sneak this in here before we wrap up because I know we've done our judgments on it. But if you want, anybody listening, if you want a really, really good vampire comic graphic novel, Scott Snyder's American Vampire blows this out of the water, bar none, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. That's my plug for my boy Scott Snyder, who did a Batman run that was fantastic. American Vampire, worth a read, especially around the Halloween.
And if you want a better vampire comic book movie, Blade.
Yeah, sweet.
Blade 2.
Blade 3, Trinity.
You think Blade Trinity's better than 30 Days of Night?
I would probably say it's about on the same level for me. I don't know if it's better, but it's about the same. Something enjoyable that I don't have to pay too much attention to.
Definitely don't have to pay a lot of attention to it.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, thanks, Blake, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. Please rate and review the show on all of your social media, on all of the podcasting platforms. Let people know about this show, and when you leave us those 5-star reviews and 5-star ratings, and when you comment and leave those written reviews, that gets the show noticed. So go out and do that. We'd appreciate it. Happy Halloween, everybody. Enjoy it. But we'll end it there. For today, for Moving Panels, I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to an 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-hosts to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.